Thanks to the holocron he had discovered in Nadd's tomb, Bane now knew that the strange crustaceans that had attached themselves to him were called obelisks. He had also discovered, through his own trial and error, that they could not be removed. In the moments after his escape from the obelisk chamber, he tried prying the one on his chest loose with the hunting knife from his boot to no avail. Failing that, he had tried to dig it out by carving away the surrounding flesh. He'd drawn the knife across his chest in a long, straight line, feeling the agony of the blade slicing deep enough to cut through skin and muscle. And then he'd watched in amazement as the wound healed itself almost instantly, the creature having somehow caused his tissue to regenerate. Bane had tried the Force next, probing deep inside to better understand what was happening to him. He could sense the creatures feeding on his power, gorging themselves on the dark side energies coursing through every fiber and cell of his being. But though they were parasites, they were also giving something back. As they fed, they pumped a constant stream of chemicals into his body. The alien fluids burned like acid as they were absorbed into a circulatory system. It felt as if every drop of blood were boiling, but the benefits were too powerful to be ignored. In addition to his miraculous healing abilities, he felt stronger than he ever had. His senses were keener, his reflexes quicker. And on his chest and back, where the creatures had latched on, their virtually impenetrable shells would serve as armor plates, capable of withstanding even a direct strike from a lightsaber. The relationship he'd finally realized was symbiotic. As long as he could endure the constant searing pain of the alien fluids being absorbed and metabolized in his bloodstream. A small price to pay, Bane had decided, before turning his attention to the holocron. Sitting cross-legged on the hard floor of the antechamber inside Nadd's crypt, he reached out tentatively with the dark side and brushed his hand against the small crystal pyramid. Responding to his caress, it began to glow. For the next 4 days and nights, he lost himself in the secrets of the ancient artifact. As he suspected, it had been created by Freedon Nadd. Bane delved into the holocron's secrets with the aid of the Gatekeeper, a miniature hologramic projection of the long-dead Sith Master responsible for its creation. The Gatekeeper guided and directed his studies, serving as a virtual mentor to those who sought out Nadd's lost secrets inside the sinister pyramid. Though Nadd had been human, his avatar was the image of a man who'd succumbed to the physical corruption that sometimes affected those who delved too deeply into the power of the dark side. His skin was pallid, the flesh withered and sunken, and his eyes were glowing yellow orbs devoid of iris or pupil. Despite this, he still appeared as a formidable warrior, broad-shouldered, clad in heavy battle armor, and the helm that had doubled as his crown when he had proclaimed himself king over the nearby world of Onderon. Through the Gatekeeper, Bane learned of the Dark Master's experiments with the obelisks, and his only partly successful efforts to control their power. He discovered not only what they were called, but also all the details of their ecology. Some of the information merely confirmed what he already knew. Once attached to a host, the obelisks could not be removed. But he also learned that in addition to boosting a host's physical abilities, it was possible to tap into the parasite's ability to feed on the dark side to greatly increase one's own command of the Force. However, Nadd's research also warned of several dangerous side effects of infestation that went beyond the constant physical pain. Should one of the organisms somehow be killed, it would release rapidly increasing levels of toxins, killing its host in a matter of days. The obelisks would also grow over time, slowly spreading until they covered his entire body from head to toe. Fortunately, along with this disturbing revelation, Bane discovered blueprints for a special helmet and face guard designed to keep the parasites from growing over his eyes, nose, and mouth while he slept. But the obelisk research was only the beginning. Freedon Nadd had been a Jedi who turned to the dark side as the apprentice of Naga Sadao, the former ruler of the ancient Sith Empire. Sadao's power had been so great, it had allowed him to survive for 6 centuries, fueled by the energies of the dark side. As his apprentice, Nadd had absorbed all his knowledge and teachings, transferring them into the Holocron before murdering Sadao and taking his place. Not surprisingly, most of the information inside the Holocron was hidden, locked away in the depths of its crystalline structure, where it could be accessed only through time, meditation, and careful study. It would take many months, maybe even years, before Bane could lay claim to its greatest secrets. And right now, there were more immediate concerns he needed to deal with. Storing the Holocron safely away, he ventured forth from the crypt to find a way to escape the surface of Duxon. The specters of Khan and Cordis were waiting for him outside.
"You are trapped here,"
Cordis said, falling immediately into his litany of failure and despair.
"What good is the Holocron if you can never leave this moon?"
Bane reached inward to call upon the dark side, drawing it not only from himself, but also from the obelisks fastened to his chest and back. Feeling an incredible surge of power beyond any he had known before, he released it in a burst of energy. The hallucinations that had plagued his wounded mind ever since the detonation of the thought bomb vanished, instantly and utterly annihilated by his newfound power. He was stronger now than he ever had been, and he knew the visions of the dead Sith would haunt him no more. Liberated from his tormentors, he still had to find a way off of Duxon. When he stared up into the sky, he could see Onderon looming large above him, the planet so close to its moon that their atmospheres had occasionally passed through each other in centuries past. For a brief window of time, this had allowed the great flying beasts of Duxon to migrate to the other world, where some had been tamed and trained to become the fearsome mounts of Onderon's fabled beast rider clans. Staring up at the world that was almost near enough to touch, Bane could sense Xana's imminent arrival there. Soon she would touch down on the dangerous and often deadly planet, and if her master wasn't there with her, it was unlikely she would survive. As he continued to gaze up, he noticed an enormous winged creature circling high above, hunting for food. At the same time, the hunter noticed him. Folding its wide, leathery wings tight against its body, it dropped into a dive, headed straight for Bane. He regarded the creature with a cool, analytical precision as it plummeted toward him. From the Holocron, he knew it was called a Drexl, one of the reptilian predators that ruled the skies of Duxon. Their appearance resembled that of a winged lizard, scaled, violet skin, a long, thick tail, and heavily muscled body and legs. A blunt, oversized head sat atop an extended, sinewy neck. It had tiny avian eyes, a flat, pushed-in snout, and a wide jaw full of jagged yellow teeth. Bane estimated this particular specimen to be 10 meters in length from nose to tail, with a wingspan of nearly 20 meters. A full-grown male, easily large enough to suit his needs. An instant before the beast swooped in to snatch him up with its razor-sharp talons, he reached out with the force and touched the Drexl's mind, attempting to dominate the brute's will with his own. He had done this once before, to a rancor on the dying world of Lehon. But the Drexl's mind was stronger than he anticipated, and the beast shrugged off his efforts as it let loose a blood-curdling shriek and slammed into him. One of the Drexl's feet lunged forward to impale him with its enormous claws, only to be deflected by the impenetrable orbalisk carapace on his chest. Instead of being skewered and carried away, Bane was sent flying backward by the momentum of the creature's dive. He hit the ground and rolled several times before springing back to his feet, uninjured thanks to his newfound physical prowess. He saw the Drexl swooping back up toward the sky, readying itself for a second attempt to dive down and seize its prey. Bane reached out to touch its mind again, bringing his will down with the crushing force of the sledgehammers he'd used in the mining tunnels of Apatros. The Drexl's body shuddered under the impact of his mental assault, and it screamed a piercing cry of protest that split the sky and reverberated over the treetops. This time, however, Bane succeeded in his efforts to subjugate the beast's thoughts to his own. It circled twice more before coming in to land beside him. At an unspoken command from its new master, it crouched and allowed Bane to climb atop its back. An instant later, it spread its wings and took to the air, climbing higher and higher. Bane pushed his mount, urging it into the uppermost reaches of the breathable atmosphere. Above them, the nearby world of Onderon grew in size until it completely filled the horizon. Only a few hundred kilometers separated Duxon from its neighbor, an insignificant sliver of distance on the scale of worlds and solar systems. Already, he could feel the faint gravitational pull of Onderon trying to draw them in. The larger planet's mass battling for dominance with that of its slightly smaller satellite. Driven by Bane's relentless will, the Drexl pumped its wings furiously, gaining speed and elevation with every beat. Bane began to summon the Force, letting it build until the last possible instant. Then, gathering the dark side around him and his mount like a protective cloak, he spurred the Drexl forward, and a second later, they broke free of Duxon's atmosphere and plunged into the frozen vacuum of space that separated him from Onderon and freedom.